For 300 years, humanity kept to itself. When humans first discovered how to travel faster than light, the galaxy expected them to rush out and join the great community of stars. Every young species did this. They were eager. They were curious. They wanted to trade, to learn, to become part of something bigger. Humanity said no. The United Terran Coalition built its colonies quietly. They spread across 47 worlds in their small corner of the galaxy and put up signs that said, "Do not enter." The other species found this very strange. The Galactic Assembly, a council of the oldest and most powerful civilizations, called humans the Quiet Apes. They thought humans were afraid. They thought humans were weak. They were wrong. Admiral Taiho Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, Eternal Dawn, watching the stars through the main window. He was 63 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. In his 40 years of service, he had never fired a weapon in anger. He was proud of this fact. His job was to protect the border colonies, and he did this through patience, through talking, through making problems go away before they became wars. His second-in-command, Captain Hannah Yoon, walked up beside him. She was younger, sharper, with a reputation for speaking her mind even when it caused trouble. "The Valkyrie ships crossed the border again," she said. "Third time this week." Taiho nodded slowly. The Valkyrie Empire was an insectoid species, tall creatures with hard shells and too many arms. They had been pushing against human space for months now, testing, probing, seeing what humanity would do. "Send another warning," Taiho said. "Sir, we have sent 17 warnings. They ignore every single one." "Then send an 18th. Hannah wanted to argue, but she knew better. Admiral Taiho believed in peace. He believed that most conflicts came from misunderstanding. If you talked long enough, if you showed enough patience, you could solve almost anything. The Valkyrie did not share this belief. 2 weeks later, they stopped testing. A fleet of 30 Valkyrie warships jumped into the Gumho system and headed straight for Gumho 4, a small moon where 8,000 humans lived. It was a farming colony, peaceful and quiet. The people there grew rice and vegetables in massive greenhouses. They had no weapons. They had no soldiers. They had children who flew kites and old people who played board games in the parks. When the Valkyrie dropships came down from the sky, the colonists did not understand what was happening. Some of them waved, thinking these were visitors. The Valkyrie soldiers did not wave back. Lieutenant Woojin Beek was 24 years old. He worked as a communications officer at the small military outpost on the edge of town. When the attack began, he was eating dinner with his sister and her 2 children. The first explosion threw him across the room. When he woke up, his sister was dead. Her children were dead. The house was on fire. Woojin ran. He was not proud of this, but he ran. The screams followed him through the streets. He saw things that would never leave his mind. Families cut down as they tried to escape, buildings burning with people still inside. Valkyrie soldiers laughing as they killed, their mandibles clicking with what might have been joy. He reached the emergency bunker beneath the outpost. It was designed to survive orbital bombardment. He sealed the door, turned on the recording equipment, and watched through the cameras as his world died. The attack lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Valkyrie planted their flag in the center of town, right where the school used to be. Then they left, taking nothing. They had not come for resources. They had not come for land. They had come to send a message. The message was simple. Humanity was weak. Humanity could be killed without consequence. Admiral Taiho received the transmission 14 hours later. He sat alone in his quarters and watched the footage from beginning to end. He watched the families die. He watched the children die. He watched the Valkyrie flag rise over the ashes. Then he watched it again. And again, Captain Hannah found him still sitting there, the recording playing on a loop. His face showed no emotion. His hands were completely still. "Sir," she said softly. "What do we do?" Taiho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different. The patience was gone. The calm was gone. Something else had taken its place. "Contact Earth," he he said. Tell them to activate Crimson Protocol. Hannah felt her blood go cold. She knew what those words meant. Every officer knew, even though none of them had ever expected to hear them spoken aloud. Sir, are you certain? Once we start this, we cannot stop it. Taiho finally looked at her. His eyes were dry, but something in them had broken and been replaced with something harder. 8,000 people, he said. They killed 8,000 people to prove we were weak. Children, Hannah, they killed children to make a point. He stood up slowly, like a man carrying a great weight. For 300 years, we showed the galaxy patience. We showed them peace. We showed them mercy. And they looked at our kindness and saw weakness. He walked to the door and stopped. No more. Send the message. Crimson Protocol. Effective immediately. On Earth, deep beneath the city of Pyongyang, alarms began to sound in places that had been silent for centuries. Machines that had never been turned on hummed to life. Factories hidden in asteroids received their orders. Shipyards buried under frozen moons began to move. Humanity had spent 301 years preparing for a war they hoped would never come. They had built weapons the galaxy had never seen. They had designed ships that operated on principles the elder races thought impossible. They had created an army that could be awakened with a single code phrase. The quiet apes were quiet no more, and across the galaxy. In the great halls of the Velkari Empire, Dominion Lord Crix celebrated his easy victory. He had shown the universe how weak humans were. He had proven that their territory was ripe for taking. He did not know that he had just made the worst mistake in the history of his species. He did not know that death was coming, and death did not forgive. The Galactic Assembly met in a station the size of a small moon, floating in neutral space where no empire could claim ownership. Here the elder races gathered to discuss matters of cosmic importance. Wars were ended here. Trade agreements were signed. The fate of entire species was decided in these ancient halls. When Earth's ambassador requested an emergency session, the delegates were mildly curious. Most of them had never met a human in person. They knew only stories. The quiet apes who hid in their corner of the galaxy, too afraid to join civilized space. Whatever the humans wanted, it would probably be amusing. Dr. Somi Kong walked into the great chamber alone. She was small compared to most of the beings present. The Valkyrie stood 3 meters tall. The crystalline Auravax towered even higher. Their bodies made of living stone that caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns. The aquatic Nethra floated in gravity bubbles, their tentacles drifting lazily. The ancient Morvathi watched with eyes that had seen empires rise and fall over millions of years. Somi Kong looked at all of them and felt no fear. She stepped onto the central platform and waited for the translation systems to synchronize. Every eye in the room turned to her. The Valkyrie delegate, a military attached named Vrikas, clicked his mandibles in what passed for a smile among his kind. The human speaks, he announced to the chamber. Perhaps she comes to beg for protection. Perhaps she comes to offer tribute in exchange for mercy. Somi ignored him. When the translation light turned green, she began. 47 hours ago, the Velkar Empire attacked our colony on Gumho 4. They killed every person there. 8,216 civilians, men, women, children. They killed them all. And then they planted their flag in the ashes. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some delegates looked uncomfortable. Others looked bored. This was how the galaxy worked. Strong species took from weak ones. It had always been this way. In accordance with our laws, Somi continued, her voice steady and cold, and the promise we made to our people 300 years ago. The United Terran Coalition formally declares a state of total war against the Valkyrie Empire. Silence fell over the chamber. Then Vrikas laughed. It was an ugly sound, like metal scraping against metal. You declare war? He rose from his seat, towering over the small human. With what? We have seen your ships. 12 patrol vessels. Maybe 15. We have 900 warships ready for battle. Your declaration is not brave. It is suicide. Other delegates joined in the laughter. The Orovac's hierarch made a sound like wind chimes that indicated amusement. Even the neutral Morvathai observers seemed to find the situation funny. Somi waited for the laughter to fade. Then she smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "You misunderstand," she said. "We did not build a large fleet because we never wanted to use one. But we did build something else." On Earth, Defense Minister Junho Choi stood in a bunker that officially did not exist. Around him, screens flickered to life, showing locations across human space. Asteroid bases, hidden moon facilities, factory complexes buried so deep underground that even satellites could not see them. For 300 years, while the galaxy laughed at the quiet apes humanity had been preparing, they did not build warships because warships could be counted, and counted ships made other species nervous. Instead, they built the capacity to create warships. Thousands of them. In days instead of years. "Begin production," Junho ordered. Across 47 worlds, machines that had waited centuries for this command began to move. Raw materials flowed into automated factories. Assembly lines that had never been used started their work in shipyards, hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids. Hulls took shape with terrifying speed, and in research stations hidden in dimensions that the Galactic Assembly did not even know existed. Weapons were loaded onto those ships. Weapons that broke the laws of physics as the elder races understood them. Weapons that humanity had invented and hoped never to use. 72 hours after Somi Kong made her declaration, 400 human warships launched from hidden bases across the coalition. They were not patrol vessels. They were destroyers. Each one carrying enough firepower to crack a planet. The Velkari border fleet consisted of 93 warships, commanded by Warlord Threx, a veteran of 12 campaigns. He had destroyed entire civilizations. He had never lost a battle. The human fleet arrived in his sector without warning. There was no dramatic confrontation, no exchange of threats. The human ships simply appeared, fired, and moved on. 11 minutes later, Warlord Threx was dead. His 93 ships were expanding clouds of debris. Not a single human vessel had been scratched. The news reached the Galactic Assembly while Somi Kong was still standing on the central platform. She watched as the Velkari delegate received the report. She watched as his confident posture collapsed. She watched as fear replaced arrogance in his compound eyes. Vrikis whispered, "This is impossible. You had no fleet. You had nothing." "We had 300 years, Somi replied. 300 years of peace. 300 years of research. 300 years of preparation for a day we hoped would never come." She stepped closer to the Velkari delegate. "You looked at our silence and saw weakness. You looked at our patience and saw fear. You were wrong." Chamber had gone completely quiet. No one was laughing now. "The Velkari Empire killed our children," Somi said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. "They thought we would do nothing. They thought we could not fight back. They were wrong about that too." She turned to address the entire assembly. "We do not want war with anyone else. We never wanted war at all. But the Velkari made their choice, and now they will face the consequences. If any other species wishes to intervene on their behalf, know this: we have more ships. We have more weapons. And we have a very, very long memory." She stepped down from the platform and walked toward the exit. Every delegate watched her go. The Moravathi observer, the oldest being in the room, recorded everything with ancient eyes that had seen countless civilizations think themselves invincible. None of them had ever been this. As Somi reached the door, she paused and looked back at Vrikas. "Tell your Dominion Lord that we are coming. Tell him that we cannot be stopped. Tell him that he should have left our children alone." Then she was gone, and the galaxy understood that everything had changed. The quiet apes were awake, and they were angry, General. Yuna Shin had never wanted to be a soldier. When she was young, she studied history. She spent years reading about humanity's past, about the terrible wars that had nearly destroyed her species. She learned about the bombs that fell on cities. She learned about the camps where millions died. She learned about the long centuries of violence that humans inflicted on each other before they finally found peace. She became a soldier because she understood something important. Peace needed protection. Someone had to stand guard so that others could live without fear. She hoped she would never have to fight. She hoped her entire career would pass without a single shot fired. That hope died with, glummed for, now she stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Indomitable Spirit. Leading the 3rd Expeditionary Force into Valkyrie space, 200 warships followed behind her, each one crewed by men and women who had seen the footage from the massacre, each one ready to do whatever was necessary. "All ships report ready," her aide announced. Yuna nodded. She had spent the journey reading reports about the Valkyrie. They were a proud species, ancient and powerful. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They believed they were superior to all other life forms. They were about to learn otherwise. "Begin the operation," she ordered. The human fleet moved through Valkyrie space like a storm. They did not attack planets. They did not target civilians. Humanity was not interested in revenge through massacre. Instead, they struck military targets with surgical precision. Shipyards, supply depots, communication stations, weapons factories. The Valkyrie had never faced an enemy like this. Previous wars had been slow, grinding affairs. Fleets would meet in great battles. Territory would change hands over years. There was time to negotiate, to make deals, to find compromises. Humanity did not give them time. In the first week, the 3rd Expeditionary Force destroyed 47 military installations. In the second week, they destroyed 100 more. The Valkyrie tried to mount a defense, but their ships were too slow. Their weapons were too weak. Every engagement ended the same way. Human ships appearing without warning, firing weapons that should not exist, and disappearing before the Valkyrie could respond. Dominion Lord Crix watched his empire crumble from his throne room on the Valkyrie homeworld. He had ruled for 60 years. He had never known defeat. Now reports arrived every hour telling him of another base destroyed, another fleet scattered, another system lost. How are they doing this? He demanded of his generals. They were nothing. They were insects hiding in their corner of the galaxy. How do they have this power? No one could answer him. On Earth, in a small apartment in Seoul, a man named Do-Yan Lee sat surrounded by computer screens. He had not left his home in 15 years. He did not need to. Everything he needed was in the networks, in the data streams. In the endless flow of information that connected the galaxy, Do-Yan was not a soldier. He had never held a weapon. But in the modern age, wars were fought with more than guns and ships. They were fought with information. And Do-Yan was the best information warfare specialist humanity had ever produced. His fingers moved across keyboards with impossible speed. He had spent months mapping the Valkyrie communication networks. He knew every node, every connection, every weakness. Now he exploited them all. Across the Valkyrie Empire, systems began to fail. Navigation computers gave wrong coordinates. Supply orders were changed or deleted. Military units received contradictory instructions. The entire command structure of the Empire began to collapse into confusion and chaos. Dominion. Lord Crix ordered his remaining fleet to gather for a final decisive battle. 200 warships, the last strength of the Valkyrie military, assembled at their most fortified system. They would make their stand here. They would show the humans that the Valkyrie could not be broken. The human fleet arrived 3 days later. General Yuna looked at the enemy formation on her tactical display. 200 ships, arranged in a defensive pattern around a massive battle station. It was an impressive sight. Against any other enemy, it might have been enough. Signal from the Valkyrie flagship, her communications officer reported. Dominion Lord Crix wants to negotiate. Yuna considered this for a moment. Then she opened a channel. Dominion Lord Crix, she said. You killed 8,000 of our people. You killed our children. You planted your flag in their ashes. What do you think there is to negotiate? Crix's image appeared on her screen. He looked older than his official portraits. Tired, afraid. "This war does not need to continue," he said. "We can reach an agreement. Territory, resources, whatever you want. We do not want your territory. We do not want your resources." Yuna's voice was flat and cold. "We want you to understand something. We want you to remember it forever." "What do you want me to understand?" "That there are consequences. That you cannot kill our people and walk away. That the galaxy is not as safe as you thought." Before Crix could respond, his navigation systems crashed. Doyen Lee, sitting in his apartment 8,000 light-years away, had finally broken through the last firewalls. The Valkyrie fleet suddenly found themselves blind. Their ships drifting out of formation as their computers screamed errors. The human fleet opened fire. The battle lasted 17 minutes. It was not really a battle at all. It was an execution. The Valkyrie ships could not coordinate. They could not aim. They could not even retreat. One by one, they were destroyed, until only Crix's flagship remained. Drifting powerless in the debris field, Captain Hannah Yoon led the boarding team personally. She had requested this mission. She needed to look the Dominion Lord in the eyes. When she dragged him from his throne room, Crix was bleeding from a wound on his head. He looked at her with hatred and confusion. "Why?" He asked, "Why do you fight so hard?" "They were just colonists." "They were nobody." Hannah stopped. She looked at the creature who had ordered the death of 8,000 people, this being who genuinely did not understand what he had done wrong. "They were not nobody," she said quietly. "They were ours, and we protect." What is ours?" She pulled him toward the shuttle that would take him to trial. "You killed our children," she whispered. "Did you really think we would forgive?" The trial of Dominion Lord Crix was broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as the once powerful ruler was brought before human justice. He walked in chains through the halls of the Earth's Supreme Court, his compound eyes darting nervously at the crowds who had gathered to see him. Judge Yunji Park presided over the proceedings. She was 70 years old, a small woman with white hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had spent her entire career fighting for fairness, for truth, for justice that applied equally to everyone. This would be her final case before retirement. She intended to make it count. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Every piece of evidence was presented openly. The footage from Gumho 4 was shown without editing, so the galaxy could see exactly what had happened. Witnesses testified. Military records were examined. The chain of command that led from Crix's throne room to the soldiers who pulled the triggers was laid out in perfect detail. Crix was given lawyers. He was given the chance to speak in his own defense. Everything was done properly, following every law and procedure. Humanity wanted the galaxy to understand that this was not revenge. This was justice. When the verdict came, no one was surprised. "Dominion Lord Crix," Judge Yunji announced, "this court finds you guilty of crimes against humanity. You ordered the murder of 8,216 civilians. You targeted a peaceful colony with no military value. You killed children to send a message." Crix stood motionless, his mandibles twitching. The sentence is death. The execution took place above Gumho 4. In orbit around the moon where the massacre had happened, Crix was placed in an airlock without a suit. The outer door opened and he was released into the void. His body would drift there forever, a silent monument to what he had done. But it was what happened next that truly shocked the galaxy. The Valkyrie Empire had lost everything. Their fleet was destroyed. Their military infrastructure was gone. Their economy was collapsing. They sent representatives to Earth ready to accept any terms humanity demanded. They expected to lose territory. They expected to pay tribute for generations. They expected occupation, humiliation, complete surrender. Ambassador Dr. Somi Kong met with the Valkyrie delegation in Geneva. The representatives arrived looking defeated, ready to sign away their future. What they received instead left them confused. "You will keep your territory," Somi announced. "You will keep your independence. We will not occupy your worlds. We will not demand tribute. The lead Valkyrie delegate blinked all four of his eyes in confusion. I do not understand. You have defeated us completely. You can take anything you want. We do not want your planets. We do not want your resources. We want something else. He placed a document on the table. The Valkyrie delegate read it, and his confusion deepened. This is a memorial agreement? The Compact of Ashes, Somi confirmed. You will build a memorial on your homeworld. A great monument listing every human name lost in the massacre. Every single one of the 8,216. And you will teach your children. For the next 500 years, every young Valkyrie will learn what happened. They will learn what your empire did. They will learn why it was wrong. They will learn the cost of attacking innocent people. The delegates stared at her. You do not want revenge? You do not want to hurt us? Somi shook her head slowly. We have already hurt you enough. We destroyed your military. We killed your soldiers. We executed your leader. What more would revenge accomplish? She leaned forward. We do not want to destroy the Valkyrie. We want you to remember. We want your great-grandchildren to know what price is paid for attacking humanity. We want the memory of this war to protect our people for centuries after we are all dead. The Valkyrie signed the Compact of Ashes that same day. News of the agreement spread across the galaxy within hours. The elder races could not believe what they were hearing. The humans had won completely. They could have taken everything. Instead, they asked only for memory. The Auravax hierarch requested a private meeting with Earth's leaders. The crystalline being was older than most stars, and it had seen countless wars end. It had never seen anything like this. Admiral Taiho represented the military at the meeting. He had aged years in the months since Gumho 4. The weight of what humanity had done, of what he had started by activating Crimson Protocol, showed in every line of his face. You confuse me? The hierarch said, its voice like singing glass. You had absolute victory. The Valkyrie were broken. You could have absorbed their empire, taken their resources, made them servants for 1,000 years. This is how wars work. This is how it has always been. Taiho nodded slowly. That is how it has always been for you? Not for us. Explain. We studied our own history, Taiho said. We learned what happens when victors take everything. You create anger. You create resentment. You plant seeds for the next war. He looked at the ancient being with tired eyes. We have already fought too many wars among ourselves. We have already learned these lessons the hard way. We do not want revenge. We want peace. Then why fight at all? Because our children died. Because we had to show the galaxy that attacking us has consequences. But consequences and revenge are different things. Ito paused. We want to be left alone. We want our colonies to be safe. If the only way to achieve that is to make the galaxy fear us, then so be it. But we will not become monsters to do it. The hierarch was silent for a long moment, processing this. Finally, it spoke again. You are not what we expected. For 300 years, we thought you were hiding because you were weak. We thought you were afraid of the galaxy. Taiho almost smiled. We were not hiding because we were afraid of you. We were hiding because we were afraid of ourselves. We know what we are capable of. We have seen it in our history. We chose isolation because we did not want to unleash that on the universe. And now the galaxy knows too. We hope that will be enough. We hope no one else will force us to show what we can do. The hierarch considered this. Then it did something that surprised everyone in the room. It bowed. Perhaps the ancient being said, "You are wiser than we knew." 5 years passed since the war ended. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Humanity remained officially isolationist. They did not seek to expand their territory. They did not try to join the Galactic Assembly as a member state. But the quiet apes were quiet no longer. A permanent human diplomatic mission now operated at the assembly station, and every species paid attention when the human ambassador spoke. The new ambassador was a woman named Ming-Gi Wang. She was 37 years old, sharp and fierce and unafraid. When she was 12, her parents had been killed on Gumho 4. She had been visiting relatives on Earth when the massacre happened, and that accident of timing had saved her life and destroyed it at the same time. For years, she had carried nothing but hatred. She wanted the Valkyrie to suffer. She wanted them destroyed. But somewhere along the way, watching how humanity chose to end the war, she began to understand something different. Her parents would not have wanted revenge. They had been teachers. They had believed in building things, not destroying them. So Mingy took her pain and turned it into purpose. She became a diplomat. She dedicated her life to making sure no other child would lose their parents the way she had. The Nether delegate said during one assembly session, "The Morvathai Collective wishes to establish trade relations with humanity. What is your response?" Mingy smiled politely. "We are open to discussion. Submit a formal proposal, and we will review it. But I must remind the Assembly of our position. We trade with those who respect our sovereignty. We do not tolerate threats. We do not forget insults." The message was always the same. Humanity wanted peace. Humanity wanted to be left alone. But humanity remembered everything. The Crimson Protocol was never deactivated. Hidden shipyards continued their slow production. Research facilities continued developing new weapons. The galaxy knew this. Everyone knew that the quiet apes could wake again at any moment if provoked. No. One wanted to be the one who provoked them. Lieutenant Wujin Beek, the sole survivor of Goomhof, had become famous without wanting to be. His testimony during the trial of Dominion Lord Crix had been watched by trillions. His face was known across hundreds of worlds. He could have retired. He could have spent his life as a symbol, giving speeches and accepting honors. Instead, he asked for a new assignment. He wanted to keep working. He wanted to keep serving. He became the first human to serve as a military attached to an alien government. The Nether Conclave had requested a human liaison, wanting to understand the species that had shaken the galaxy. Wujin was chosen because he represented what humanity had lost and how they had responded. Walking through the underwater halls of the Nethra capital, surrounded by beings so different from himself, Wujin often thought about the people who died. He remembered his sister's smile. He remembered his niece and nephew playing in the greenhouse gardens. He carried them with him everywhere, not as a burden, but as a promise. He would make their deaths mean something. He would help build a future where such things never happened again. On the 5th anniversary of the massacre, ceremony was held at Goomhof 4. The moon had been transformed. Where burned fields once stood, white flowers now grew in endless waves. The ruined town had been rebuilt as a memorial, each building preserved as it had been found. A frozen moment of tragedy. People came from across human space. Some had lost family in the attack. Others simply wanted to pay their respects. Alien observers came too, representatives from a dozen species who wanted to understand why this small moon mattered so much. Admiral Taiho Park attended, though he was retired now. His hair had gone completely white in the years since the war. He walked slowly through the gardens, remembering the choices he had made. Wondering if they had been right, he still could not watch the footage from that day. He did not need to. It played in his mind every night when he tried to sleep. General Yunishin was there as well. She had returned to her first love after the war, writing books about history, trying to capture what humanity had experienced so future generations would understand. Her latest work was about the war itself, a careful examination of every decision, every battle, every consequence. "We must remember what we are capable of," she wrote in the introduction. "Both the terrible things and the good things. We must remember so that we can choose wisely when the next test comes." Vice Admiral Hannah Yoon gave the closing address. She stood before the crowd, the white flowers stretching behind her to the horizon, and spoke without notes. "We did not seek this war," she said. "We did not want the burden that was placed upon us. When the Valkyrie came to this moon and killed our people, we could have responded in many ways. We could have hidden, accepted our weakness, let the galaxy think us prey." She paused, looking out at the thousands of faces watching her. "We chose differently. We chose to fight. Not because we loved war, but because we loved our people more. We showed the galaxy that humanity protects its own, not because we are conquerors, not because we are monsters, but because we are a family, and families do not abandon their dead. The names of the fallen were read aloud. All 8,216. It took 14 hours. No one left. They stood in the gardens as the sun set and rose again, listening to each name, remembering each person. When it was over, Mingy Wang placed a wreath at the central monument. She thought of her parents buried somewhere beneath the flowers. She thought of the child she had been, screaming with grief when she learned the news. She thought of the woman she had become. "I will not let your deaths be meaningless," she whispered. "I will build the future you wanted. I promise." Across the galaxy, other species watched the ceremony with different eyes now. They no longer saw the quiet apes, the weak humans hiding in their corner of space. They saw something else entirely. The Auravax gave humanity a name in their ancient language, Velkath Moran, those who rise from ruin. It was a name of respect. Given to only 3 species in all of galactic history, the Nethra wrote songs about the human war, teaching their children about the danger of underestimating the small and the quiet. The Morvathi observers recorded everything, adding humanity to their great archives as a species to watch, a species that had changed the rules of the galaxy without conquering a single world. And in the darkness between stars, in the empty spaces where ancient things waited, the message spread. Humanity was awake. Humanity was watching. Humanity would never be prey again. The flowers on Goomhove swayed in the gentle breeze. The dead rested peacefully beneath them, and the galaxy remembered.